Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to CSL Denver, a place, a space, and a face of love, a spiritual community teaching ancient wisdom and applying universal principles to empower our lives and the lives of others. It is so good to be here today as finally fall has fell in Colorado. I had to put my jacket on. I stepped out the house and it was like, uh-oh. Wrong outfit, wrong outfit. And so it's a great time to deep dive into our topic for today because the theme for the month is We the People, the Art of Power, the Art of Power. And today we're going to shift gears from last week where we talked about personal power, and now we're going to look at communal power and what that means and how it activates our lives and what it really takes, what it really takes to form a real community, a real community. And as we always say, I always like to start with the one word expression. It's the same one every time: awareness. No matter what we're doing, no matter where we're doing it, no matter how we are doing it, awareness has to be a cornerstone of what we're doing. Because if we're doing things rotely, if we're doing things out of just sheer memory and body muscle memory, I can assure you, sooner or later, you're going to realize that you've been asleep at the wheel. And life has just passed. How many of you ever done that? Been in your car, you recognize the King Super, and the next thing you know, you're at the post office, and you're like, oh, Lord, did I run over somebody? Because I don't remember getting from there to here, and I know the distance between the two. Well, that's what we have to keep in mind when we look at individual power and growth and communal power and growth. Because when we come together as an inspired group of individuals with a shared vision and a way of looking at the world that says yes, all things are possible. All things are possible. There's a verse in the Bible, Matthew 18:20, that says, when two or three are gathered in my name, I am in the midst of all of that. God is saying, Spirit is saying, universal intelligence is saying, when two or more are gathered with a single-minded focus, with the vision, a purpose, and intention to do a thing, God is there, providing, supporting, sometimes pushing, sometimes cajoling, because when a commitment comes, sometimes we buckle at the knees. We don't want to deal with that commitment. That's like a curse word when you start saying commitment. But sometimes we need to curse, right? Sometimes, my dad used to always say, cursing is like salt and pepper. Sometimes you need a little bit on your food, not too much. You might ruin the meal, but you need a little bit of salt and pepper. And so when we start thinking about community, commitment is at the heart of what we're doing. Because there's an incredible power we hold when we come together. When we come together. Now, we live in a time and in a world that currently puts so much emphasis, I believe, on this idea of rugged individualism. I can do it myself. I'm going to pull myself up by my bootstraps. I'm a self-made person. No, you're not. None of that's true. Because as they say, we're all standing on the shoulders of someone, even if we don't know who it is. Even if we don't know who it is. There was someone who had to sacrifice, and in some cases, give up their life for us to be where we are today. So that rugged individualism goes out the window real quick. And I guarantee you, if you talk to anyone that is doing well, whatever that, however you define that, they will tell you, I'm the person standing out front, but there's a whole tribe behind me. There's a whole community behind me that supported me, that fed me when I was, when I wouldn't come out the room or study, and they just slip a little something under the door. So you got to eat. They will provide that overwatch to look at us and say, they're working on a divine idea. There's a shared vision here. There's a way of each and every one of us coming together as a result of this idea. And when that happens, there's strength, there's trust, there's support, there's growth. And that's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. So imagine the impact we could have by embracing this whole idea of community. And now there's this, I want to be real clear, because even sometimes community gets confused because people think they are community select above others, or a community that knows all, does all, and will put some punishment on you if you don't do what they say do. But that's not what real community is. One of the examples, I'm sure some of you may have heard of, there's the story where it says Ezekiel saw a wheel. And he saw a wheel within a wheel, within a wheel, within, and he just go on infinitum, showing that community itself is enormous. And there are sub-communities, if you will. There are ecosystems, there are respiratory systems in your body, but it makes up the community of you, of me, of us. And if you start indiscriminately pulling out smaller communities, just think about your body. You start indiscriminately pulling out your eye, let's say, just as an example. You're not going to be very happy with that outcome. You're not. And it's the same when we look at every community, just like every person within the community is needed, is supported by everything else in the community. The eye would be absolutely, even if you didn't pull it out, I hope you don't pull it out. I'm not going to pull mine out. Don't pull yours out. But I guarantee you, your eye alone does not do the seeing, because it needs a brain for you to transport the light to, for it to refract it and turn it around, right? Because we know it goes in upside down. So it needs the brain to go say, oh, somebody looking at some light. Let me flip it so they can see it, and boom. There's a symbiotic relationship there. There's a give and take there that is present in real community. In real community. And quite frankly, neither one of those objects or any objects in a broader community feel that it is being less than or giving up its power because it supports something else in the whole. I'll tell you a story about what real community looks like. So I grew up in the 70s in the South, Black community. My mother died when I was 6. My father was old enough to be my grandfather, and he was lucky enough to have a great profession as a chef. However, his motto still curses me to the day was, if you get up past 6 o'clock, you've already missed half the day. The day starts at 12:01. Because as a chef, he had to be in the kitchen by 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock at the very latest. My father would be out of the house. And I would be home, 7-year-old kid, by myself. Had it not been for the community to make sure I didn't oversleep, although he made sure of that, because he, even to this day, I don't care what I'm doing. I may not get out of bed, but I'm waking up at 6 o'clock or before. Now, I may turn over and go to sleep, but I'm definitely waking up. But it was because of the community that I survived. I was one of the original latchkey kids. People don't know what that is today, but I'm sure some of you know what that means. I locked the door when I left, and I opened the door and let myself in when I came home. But there was always somebody in the community that had an eye on me if I got too crazy, or to remind me, did you do your homework? Or did you have something to eat? Come on, eat. My kids getting ready to eat. Come on, eat over here. There was a support. And more importantly, there was an accountability for everybody in the community. Why? There was a shared vision. There was a communal purpose that says, we have diamonds in this community. We have genius in this community. And we're not going to let the misfortune or the bad situation or a mistake that someone makes out of not knowing to not allow the power, the presence of God that is within all of us to move forward. That's what community does. They look out. Now, I'll tell you, some of y'all, I'm sure some of y'all may have heard this. Boy, there was a couple of days, well, actually, there were probably a lot of days that I got 2 whoopings. Now, that ain't safe to say today. You can't do that. But back then, you could do it. Neighbor would see me doing something. I'd either get 2 responses. I'm going to tell your daddy when you get home, or I'm going to tell your daddy that I whoop you. And this is why I did it. Now, the reason for that was to make me understand that, of course, I don't speak for everybody in the community. I don't speak for my race. I'm individual, but I do have a reflection of what is taking place in that environment. Community power is a powerful thing when we use it and understand it and don't take advantage of it. See, because when we work together, we amplify the power of God. It's when you come in community, it's not simple addition, it's multiplication. We're amplifying, we're duplicating, we're multiplying the power, the wisdom, the presence, everything that's needed for everybody to succeed. Margaret Mead says this, as Giselle said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world. In fact, it is the only thing that ever has. You think about all of the stuff that we praise from Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha or Krishna or Microsoft, Apple. It was a small group of people that made it happen. It was Jesus and the disciples. It was Muhammad and his companions. It was Apple, Steve Jobs, and Wozniak, and all those folk who got in the garage. Same thing with Gates. It was a small group of people who had a common vision and a shared aspiration to do good, to make things better, to utilize the divine power that is present in all of us and say, let's go. There are going to be some tears, there are going to be some hungry nights, but there's also going to be some joy and some celebration and some upliftment. And that's what we need today. And when we grab that communal power, we change and turn a divine potential into a divine reality. We turn a divine potential into a divine reality. Now, who doesn't want a reality where they're supported? Who doesn't want a reality where you can get help? Who doesn't want a reality where when I'm a little lacking here, I can go over here and have so-and-so teach me how to be better in that? Everybody. Everybody. Because the primary call, I believe, or one of the primary calls, is for us to grow. Now, if you don't believe me, just think about where you come from. You come from a one-cell thing that grew into you and to me and everyone in this room, online. That is the nature of creation, is to grow, even if you don't want to. So when we are in a community that supports that growth, we are moving at warp speed. We're moving at warp speed. Wallace Waddle, great New Thought metaphysician, said this: you can't help someone else without helping yourself. The more you give, the more you'll get. That's the basis of a community. This law of giving, this law of circulation. There's something, you reap what you sow. There's many different ways to say this one idea that you have to give something to get something. I forget who it was. It might have been Reverend Ike that said, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. There's no magic there. If you don't bring anything to the table, you probably won't get much. But when we can think about that and allow life to really unfold communally, there's nothing we can't do. There's nothing we can't do. Helen Keller said, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. Now, this is from a blind person. Yeah, Helen Keller. If you haven't read the story of Helen Keller, read that story. It's a story of growth, commitment, determination, and community. Because she could not, she had no choice but to depend on the community. No choice. Well, there was a choice, but it didn't make sense. So she bowed down to the community. So how do we begin to create and utilize this power that arises out of unity, of coming together, of collaboration, of mutual support? I'll give you 3 reasons or 3 ideas or 3 things that must be present if we're going to move forward. And I've already said the first one a couple of times, but I want to make it explicit. There has to be a shared vision and a shared purpose. We can't have the horses, if you will, going in all different directions. The wagon is never going to get anywhere but torn apart. So we have to have a shared vision of where we're going. And I would submit that everybody, no matter what they say, no matter which community they may be a part of, we all have a shared vision of happiness, of joy, of being able to overcome obstacles, because we all got them. And sometimes that obstacle is us. And so sometimes we need some help overcoming us. Let's be real. Because we can all get stuck in our rugged individualists and think so much of ourselves and so little of everybody else, that we judge them, that we criticize them, that we put them down. Everything but what's needed, and that's love and support. Love and support. So we have to have a shared vision. And we have to have a shared purpose. Now, you can have a vision, but have a very shallow purpose. How did that happen? Well, you don't pay attention. We started at the beginning. Awareness. If you're not aware, I can have the vision of everything, but if I'm not aware of my surroundings, if I'm not aware of the resources that I have, that vision will turn into a nightmare. You know what? I think I told somebody this before, and I may even set it up on the pulpit. There's a program I stumbled on. I think it's on National Geographic, or maybe original on that, and I saw it on Netflix. But anyway, it was this idea of this show called Outlast, and they dropped some people off in Alaska. And they formed teams of 4, and they gave them some basic stuff to survive. In Alaska, I'm going to make that part real clear. In Alaska, when it was turning into winter, from fall to winter, temperatures were down to 30s, dropped down to the 17s, and this group had to come together to build a shelter, to start some fire, to find fresh water, to figure out what the heck they could eat. Now, they got another show with rugged individuals that go out there and do that, but it's quite different when they did it in a community. Because somebody worked on the fire, somebody built the shelter. There was a purpose with that vision of to survive and outlast. The purpose was, we know we need certain things to make this happen, so we better get busy. We found out what are you good at? What's your skill? Oh, okay. You go do that, you go do this, I go do this, and then we'll come back and see where we are, and then we'll ship in where we need to. Purpose. There was a purpose, shared vision and purpose. And today we need that more than ever. We need a vision and a purpose for why we're doing it. Happiness, joy, success, upliftment. Are you ready? Are you willing? I know you're able, because God has made all of us able. It's ready and willing, this part that we sometimes have a challenge with. But now once we can do that, we can begin to sing that song. Y'all know the song. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. When you got a vision, you can see clearly. All obstacles are moving out of my way. I said that wrong, but y'all know what I'm saying. Y'all know the song. So once we have a shared vision and purpose, the next thing we have to cultivate and bring present is service. And service means supporting. Service means that giving part. You know, we talked about you can't give without receiving. That's what service is. And I'm sure, now this might be a wrong thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm sure some of y'all have gone to the store and you've said, even if you said it to yourself, service ain't what it used to be. Calling no names, no institutions, no people. But the idea of service, of being humble, of giving of yourself, of going the extra mile, it turns into support. I went in the store the other day and I asked where, I'm showing my southern roots, where the grits were. And they were like, a grit? No, I need the whole box of grits. I don't need a grit. No idea. I don't know, down there somewhere. Really? No kind of service or support, and that's their job. Luckily, I found the grits, and I had some grits and eggs that morning for breakfast, and it was good. But service and support is a dying thing now, because we got these rugged individuals who want to do it themselves and expect you to do the same. But in a community, somebody would say, well, I don't know. Come on, let's go. It used to be on this aisle. I was in a store today, just remodeled it and moved things around. And the sign says one thing, but when I got to aisle so-and-so, it wasn't there. But they took the time to walk with me and found it. Service and support. Service and support. Ernest Holmes says this, and I think Ernest has a real good idea. He says, we are surrounded by a universal mind which reacts to our thoughts. The law of mind responds to all alike. Whether we understand it or not, But when we consciously direct it in the right way, we use it for the greater good of all. That person was looking at a greater good, because if I ain't buying grits, they may not have a job. Now that's kind of personal, I know. But that makes the point very clear of what support and service looks like. What it takes, for the most part, is something that is short supply today, and that's humility. Humility. Not to think so much of myself. My dad always said, I don't care what game you're playing, I don't care how good you think you are, there's always somebody that's better and more advanced in the game than you. So you need to be humble with what you do. Foundation of service. As a chef, he was in complete service to everyone that stepped through that restaurant. After we get that down, because there's a universal law, we've talked about them, law of circulation, law of correspondence, all these things that deal with service. We think about another song, I believe, or if we don't, I'm gonna tell you anyway. There's a song that there's a verse that says, why have you come to earth? And it says, you've come to earth to love, serve, and remember. Remember who we are. Remember what community means. Remember what it takes to live a joyous and gracious life. When we do that, we're in good shape. But now come the hard part. I just had to hold it to the end. That third thing, that's growth and accountability. That's a tough one. Because sometimes, like this morning for me, I was in the bed, it was nice and comfortable. I didn't want to get up. I set the alarm 3 times before I actually got up. I was kind of late getting in here. Because that required some growth. That required some accountability. How accountable are you, first and foremost, to yourself? Because if you come to the community not fully throttled, as they say, that's going to be a drag on the community. Broncos playing today. I'm using a lot of references today. Broncos playing, I think they're playing down there in New Orleans. So that's going to be a really good game. Are they playing New Orleans? No. They're playing here. They're playing the California team. Yeah. And so either way, everybody coming on the field has to be accountable. They have to be accountable for their position and to do their job. Now, I hate that word, do their job, because it's overplayed now. That's all you hear. Do your job. I just like, okay. The problem with that is you can never do your job by yourself. All jobs are done in a community. They are done together. They're working together. You have to be accountable to do your part. But if I do my part the very best that has ever been done, if nobody else is doing theirs, it's going to be a failure. So we have to grow into that sometime. We have to grow into this idea of being accountable, of holding ourselves to a higher standard. Jim Ross says this, and I love what he says. He says, your life does not get better by chance. It gets better by change. By change, which means there got to be an accountability there if something's changing. And when we can step into a place where we have a shared vision and purpose, and we can really begin to be of service, and we give ourselves over to growth and accountability, the community will thrive. The community will thrive. And so the question becomes, are you ready to be a part of a community that looks for ways to serve? That looks for ways to be accountable. Because in accountability, there's trust. There's trust. And who doesn't want a trust in hand today, given all that stuff that's going on outside? We need somebody we can trust, somebody we can depend on, somebody that's humble, somebody that has a vision, a purpose, and willing to give. And so we want to highlight the idea, first and foremost, as we close, that a community is more than a group of people together in a room or anything like that. That's not what a community is. A community is a gathering of people who have understood the divine essence of all things and the connectedness of all things and the oneness of all things, and that without me, there's no you, or without you, there's no me. And so when we remember that, we have a thriving community. We have a place where we can rest our head, we can seek shelter, and we can celebrate the glory of life. And so with that, I want to, as always, I have some call to actions that we want to look at as we think about this whole idea of community. The first, vision on how, I didn't do that right, did I? Vision on how, well, I'm going to fix it right now. Vision on how you can help the community grow by being more accountable. Forget what I wrote there, because I don't even, that ain't right. See, I didn't have a group. I didn't have nobody check my thing there. But that's okay. We're going to correct it right here in the group. And then think about, contemplate what is your role in the community, what gifts you can bring. Because when you do that, now we got something to work with. We got something to work with. And so, affirmation that says, this affirmation is I think it really helps us get there. And that says, together we empower each other for the greater good. Together we empower each other for the greater good. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Mother, Father God, that complete aspect of life, that wholeness that allows us to understand what it means when two or three are gathered together in the name of God, the divine intelligence that has created worlds. We understand that the interrelationship of all things is what supports life itself. It is that essence of who we are that drives us, that pushes us, that reminds us that we have a unique purpose and calling to give back to the whole, to create this world that works for all, and to understand that we are our brothers and sisters' keeper. And so it is in that kind of a vision, it is in that understanding of our purpose that we come together in community to create, to celebrate, to joyfully give where we are needed to give. And so I know right now, whether you're here in this room or whether you're online or whether you hear this later, that we are awakening to the idea, the true idea of community. Not just a gathering of people, but a group of people with a shared vision and a shared purpose and an idea of what it takes to unfold the gifts that we each bring. And so I know that right here, right now, that is happening within each and every one of us individually and collectively. And we are coming forth with a brand new song, with a brand new light, and a way of uplifting any and everything we touch. And so it is in that understanding of upliftment that I give thanks, that I celebrate life, that I celebrate community, that I celebrate each and every one of you, knowing that you are the one that I've been waiting for. And so I just released this prayer into a law that is already activated, that has already cultivated an environment that supports everything that we do. And so I just release, let go, and know that it is absolutely so. And so it is. Amen. So it is. Amen. And so, as always,